Um, Thank you, Ram. So my name is Henry Tam. I am with Redis in the solutions marketing team. And so we want to talk today about building patient-centered healthcare applications with Redis Enterprise. And I'll just quickly go through the agenda. As Ron said, I only have a very short time, but I'd like to kind of just cover high level what we see as some of the healthcare industry challenges, this initiative called Digital Front Door, and then the specific use cases that Redis applies to related to that initiative. And then I'd like to spend actually a majority of time talking to some specific customer reference architectures and stories around how companies in the healthcare sector are using Redis. So with that, let me go ahead and get started. So I think there are three main challenges that I think are facing the healthcare industry today, from what we can tell from talking to our customers. Number one, changing patient expectations. The whole digital transformation journey and the things I've talked to you about, I think, in previous Angel Beat webinars, is around the notion that everyone is expecting that all facets of their life have the same ease of use, that everything is digitized, everything's online. And so even in the healthcare space, I think consumers, or specifically people that are seeking any kind of healthcare service, are expecting that same level of customer experience that they do in other parts of their lives. And the other key aspect is that there's a shift, I guess, in the healthcare business model where it used to be more of a very transaction, fee for service, and kind of a volume-based business from both the healthcare provider as well as from the private payers and the insurance companies. But now we're seeing more of that shift to more of a value-based approach, meaning that there's more emphasis and more focus on not just that immediate, hey, I saw you today, I prescribed whatever, prescription for your particular problem, and kind of that's done. It's more of a holistic approach to really provide the best value, because even in healthcare industry now, there are choices, and customer experience, customer loyalty is all predicated on more, being able to control your own destiny, so to speak, make your own choices when it comes to healthcare providers. And then the third area where I think there's been a change and a shift in healthcare is, again, and COVID definitely accelerated this, we saw, where, again, healthcare industry was probably, I would say, a little bit behind from a digital transformation, things like moving to the cloud, microservices. So the whole notion of digital transformation has accelerated for the healthcare industry. Again, I would say definitely, due to COVID and the need to adjust at that point. So where does Digital Front Door fit in? So Digital Front Door, I'm sure most of you are aware, is an initiative that's been talked a lot about over the recent years. And it really applies to both the patients, the payers, and the providers, right? And it's this comprehensive kind of end-to-end framework that, again, ties to that whole shift in business model and shift in patient expectations, which is to make the whole healthcare experience, intuitive, convenient, right? Which is where the digital and online aspects come from. And then having consistent experiences where, for example, if you call into your provider or call into your insurance, that they recognize who you are and that you don't have to continue to repeat yourself. They understand your whole history, etc. So offering that customized personal experience, similar to what we expect in kind of like our retail world and now other aspects, right? We really want to be able to experience and provide that kind of personalized experience where both the provider, the payer, and know who you are as a patient, understand your needs, and be able to customize that experience to you. And then have to focus not only on the actual care provided, but all the experiences pre-care and post-care. And post-care, includes things like, submitting the claims for that particular procedure or operation or prescription. And then really the whole notion of engendering, patient and member loyalty for either the provider or the insurance company by really providing that level of quality care but then at the same time, this whole digital front door, one of the other benefits is to help drive costs down while improving the quality of care. So some of the key use cases that we see that Redis can help in this kind of new digital front door that we talked about is these kind of 4 or 5 areas. And I will cover the first 2 in a little bit more detail. And I have some customer stories that tie to them as well. So I'll share those. But I wanted to just kind of briefly talk to each of these. So patient, provider, payer 360. Right, again, we talked about this kind of holistic view of the patient from both the provider and the payer perspective, as well as these patient portals, if you will, which is literally the front door to allow the back-end healthcare applications and systems, both again at the healthcare provider as well as from the payer perspective. And so those portals are key to providing that seamless patient experience. And then the second really key area that we see us playing a part in is in the whole, from the payer side, the whole, claims processing and auditing and adjudication review of those claims. I think there's a way for us to help in the whole digitalization of that process that will not only speed up the claims, but also help reduce some of the costs associated with claims processing. Another couple of the key use cases is intelligent call center routing, the ability to be able to route when you make a call into your provider or your payer, to be able to direct it to the right proper resource or the right part of the organization that can help you. I think we've all been on those calls where you call in, we get asked same questions and get rerouted to someone else, and then that someone else asks the same questions, and then it turns out they have to reroute someone else. So getting to the right specialty or right area, the right doctors, the right people that can help answer your questions, I think is key to this whole notion of a digital front door and changing customer expectations. And then another area is like things like, virtual patient check-in when you're coming in for a procedure or an operation or some sort of visit. And then, checking into this kind of virtual waiting room, so to speak. And then the last area that I wanted to talk to really quickly is around healthcare analytics. There's a lot of AI and ML also happening in the healthcare industry. And, we can help provide some of that data to feed into some of those ML models and algorithms. And I'll speak to that a little bit when it comes to claims processing and things like fraud detection. So let me go and dive into then a little bit of who Redis is for those who don't know, and I won't spend too much time on this. But again, Redis is the creator of the open source in-memory data platform that's used primarily for caching and front-end databases. It's designed with speed in mind because it is in memory, sub-millisecond latencies, etc., supporting multiple data structures and models. And then really the hallmark of what Redis has been able to provide and why it's been so popular is the simplicity of deployment and management. And Redis Enterprise is simply the commercial or enterprise version of Redis open source. So it's built on top of the exact same Redis open source. It layers in additional data models and capabilities, including things like JSON and search. But we also provide a set of core enterprise capabilities around multi-tenancy, what we call active-active geo-distribution for 5 nines of availability, linear scalability, and a lot of the durability features that make it much easier and simpler to use Redis without having to do a lot of the heavy lift upfront. So again, this is all part of what you get with Redis Enterprise, either on-prem software or in the cloud. So earlier I talked about the key use cases, and one of them was this whole notion of patient member 360 and how you access your information, whether it's claims or whether it's medical records or previous diagnostics or lab results do this portal, or like I said earlier, the literal front door to your healthcare provider or to your private insurance. So basically providing that single, secure, unified experience for members, patients, and in some cases for healthcare providers themselves. So the challenges that we talked about earlier, and this shifting business model, shift to cloud, the acceleration of digital transformation, all of that is sometimes hindered by things like, potentially some legacy systems that are using relational databases, which was not designed for real-time access. Multiple silo systems, each one that could have your personal health records. Obviously, from the provider perspective, they're like electronic health records, electronic medical records. All of these are typically siloed in multiple different systems. In some cases, we've worked with some very large systems that have, some of these things still on, like mainframe type systems. And they can't necessarily provide that complete view of the patient, right? That gives you that end-to-end visibility. Again, that patient member 360. And so really the opportunity for Redis to help in that entire process is things like caching, session data, member profiles, so that when you're logging into that front door portal, you can get authenticated. You can perform some of the self-service tasks that you want to be able to do. And we'll talk about claims processing, but obviously checking on your claims or checking on, where, schedule, doing patient scheduling, etc. All these things have some real-time aspects where the having that data available instantly is key. The other aspect that Redis provides and helps in this area is around multi-model data support, right? Multi-data model support, including things like JSON, which is a perfectly, ideal format for storing things like documents, and guess what? Things like medical records. And so marrying that up with our full search capabilities, being able to do full indexing, and be able to effectively search for some of these records or things like claim status. All of these are part of the ability to give you that seamless, consistent experience. And then lastly, of course, I talked a little bit earlier about durability and availability, because these front door and portals are, again, being used as as a critical part of that healthcare experience. You don't want to have any kind of downtime associated with the data layer, in this case with Redis, and we provide that high level of availability and 5 nines. From a claim processing perspective, we have a number of customers in the insurance space that use us, again, as part of their front door. But the other area that really, I think, has a lot to be improved on is the whole claim processing workflow, if you will. The couple of key challenges there are around, there are a lot of steps in this workflow. This diagram here to the right is probably a very simplistic, view of it, but, it kind of captures all the varying steps from the actual claim submission, getting all the information, validating, what insurance you have, looking that up, what is your policy, what is that code for that procedure or that prescription, what's covered. All those things are being reviewed, and in some cases are still being done manually. And the idea of digitizing that entire claims process, I think most organizations would agree that that needs to be done, but it won't probably be done immediately for a number of reasons related to, legacy systems, privacy concerns, regulatory constraints. But yet we know that that cost and complexity of this entire claims processing system needs to be solved, again, to provide that same patient, consistent, and intuitive experience. So where does Redis Enterprise fit within this kind of workflow? Because a lot of these things can be stored as events and can be triggered off of certain things, we have a role to play as kind of the message broker or event store that can take a lot of these events, store it in a highly accessible and fast accessible storage in memory to then be able to speed up some of these processes. And as some of these steps in this workflow is being digitized and automated, right, which helps to reduce costs and reduce things like manual input errors, putting in the wrong code, or it has, they put in the wrong insurance number, etc. All these things can help to speed up the entire process. The other area where we see help in this entire process is around the whole claim auditing and adjudication process, because a lot of this stuff can be done through AI or ML models nowadays, rather than having a specific, person at the provider that's responsible for, following up on these claims and making sure payment is done. Some of these steps can be done through some sort of ML AI modeling, and Redis as the online feature store to serve some of those features to enable some of these models is where, again, our performance, throughput, and multi-model support can help. The other area I'll just quickly mention is around fraud detection. I'm not going to get too much into this, but very similar to in financial services, there are obviously many types of fraud, whether it's by very unscrupulous medical providers, or whether from the consumer patient side, or even false prescriptions. Things of that nature are all being monitored and trying to be detected by all the players in the healthcare system. But again, leveraging AI and ML to recognize patterns and behaviors are another way where we can help from a fraud detection perspective. I know I'm getting close to time, so I want to really get to some of the other customer things.
Hey, Henry?
Yes.
Henry, we've only got about a minute left, so if you could just be cognizant of that and emphasize some of the key concluding comments, that would be great.
Sure. So I'm not going to get to too many, but I just wanted to quickly, in 30 seconds, cut to a couple of these key use cases. HealthStream is a learning and development solution, and they are able to scale with Redis to provide the learning solutions to help train some of the healthcare professionals that are needed in the healthcare sector. This one is a hospital management system provider in APAC region, and they switched out using MongoDB as the document store for their electronic medical records and started using Redis Enterprise Cloud, leveraging our search capabilities and JSON. So I wanted to definitely highlight that as part of my example of the use cases. And then the last one I really want to cover is more in the kind of analytics space. So this company in the US is really primarily working on providing temporary nursing staffing for healthcare providers. And they use us to help do the matching of the candidates, in this case, temporary nurses, to the immediate needs of the different healthcare providers. As you can imagine, during COVID, this was a pretty vital service that they were providing to be able to do that. And again, Redis Enterprise was the online feature store for their ML matching algorithm. So I would just kind of conclude by saying that, with our partners to do both the cloud and being able to offer our service on-prem, with all the capabilities and the inherent, goodness that Redis provides, we are able to help both healthcare providers as well as all the patients, indirectly helping the patients have that seamless customer experience that, even in the healthcare space, that they are rightly expecting and deserving of. So I'll conclude that and hand it back to you, Ron.